Welcome to the Verse. Oh, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Verse Crypto channel. Today we have a special guest. His name is Adam from Vibra Finance CEO. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about XRP and XLM, and this is going to be our first video in the series where we're going to cover ISO 20022. For those guys who don't know, ISO 20022 is a list of coins that have specialized regulations through federal governments and also world governments. So this is definitely a really cool series and something you want to tune into. Hey, Adam, how you doing today? Thanks for joining the stream.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to this. We were working a lot behind the scenes trying to put this together. There's been a lot happening in the news lately. So for people that aren't aware of this stuff, I think it's crucial that they at least are aware of it. So when this stuff really starts to come to light, it doesn't catch people off guard.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I've always preached on to my community and also my YouTube channel is that we're currently in a bear market, and this is a time to be getting into research, looking at new coins, and trying to really understand the space because this space moves so quickly. So, what are your overall thoughts on cryptocurrency right now?
So I'm right now, I have a crypto consulting company. So I work with people every day, from whales to, people that are putting their first $100 into crypto. So I'm trying to keep people who haven't experienced the volatility like this, not worrying, and letting them know that this is exactly how things shake out. We're in a bear market. It's volatility in the stock market times 10. But lately, with what's going on Wall Street, some of these stocks dipping 40, 50% in half of a year. I mean, the stock market is almost becoming as volatile as crypto. So it's almost kind of a blessing where people are seeing how crazy inflation is, how crazy the stock market is. So Bitcoin all of a sudden isn't as risky to some people, but still a lot of people don't know about the space, and I'm excited to onboard people every day and bring in people that are going to be here for the long term.
Absolutely. I mean, I followed you a lot with some of the work you've done and some of your coverage of different projects, and it's really great how you get into stuff within the Hex community, and you also branch out and you get into other coins and new and hot technology on the uprise. I think the biggest thing with cryptocurrencies now is there's so many communities and there's so little branching out and trying to check out new ideas and new things that could revolutionize the space and also lead to mainstream adoption. So definitely kudos to you for being a pioneer in this space.
Appreciate it. Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. I mean, community is so important in this space. And now with the threat of legislation really cracking down on our freedom with decentralized finance, we really need to unite as a community as a whole and make sure that we aren't silenced and this awesome technology can be unleashed the right way and properly, not stalled out.
Absolutely. So definitely agree with all that. And with that being said, you ready to just hop in and let's start talking a little bit about XRP and XLM and all the juicy details?
Definitely. I mean, those were some of the first two coins that got me into crypto back in the day, watching digital asset investor videos, and it brings back memories. But for people that are new and just getting into the space, we're at prices we haven't seen in a long time, prices that I kind of almost didn't think we'd see again. So the opportunity that you heard people, had in the last bull run, it's here again. So super excited for what these guys are doing with Ripple and XRP and XLM.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanksgiving's right around the corner, and the day after Thanksgiving is Black Friday, where everything's on discount. So there's a Black Friday in retail, and there's a Black Friday in cryptocurrency. So nothing wrong with buying a few TVs and buying a few coins for sure. So,
Exactly.
yeah, so kind of just starting off with getting into XRP and XLM and just kind of breaking it down. So for those who are not familiar with XRP and XLM. Could you please give us a brief overview of what each project is?
Yeah, so I kind of look at it as XRP is the banker's coin, and they're going to be utilized for settlement, you know, cross-border transactions and instant liquidity or on-demand liquidity. And I think Stellar, they're primarily focusing on the retail side of it, the smaller transactions, and with MoneyGram and the small fiat on ramps, they're starting to really thrive in that market. So there, there's a couple in the differences in the supplies of the coins. XRP has twice the amount of coins, which a lot of people don't know that, and it's not actually what it looks on paper, because half that supply is locked up in escrow, so it can't even be touched right now. So, well, actually, it's being sold off in portions. And now they're under that 50% threshold. So XRP has been getting criticized a lot for being centralized. But now that they've fell beneath that 50% level, I think that's really, it lifts the stigma off their back. And with the whole lawsuit going on and the corruption with FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried, everyone that was kind of negative with XRP, I think the tone is changing a little bit. And another big thing that kind of separates them is Stellar has the Stellar Development Foundation behind them, and they're basically there to help grow the ecosystem, bring new projects on, bring developers in, and basically, make sure that they spend money the right way. They have half of the supply that they're going to use to give out over the next 10 years to projects, to holders. They have a master plan. So kind of seeing these companies that have, a plan in motion, and also, the utility and the use case that they have are kind of unparalleled.
Absolutely. Would you say it's fair to say that, XRP kind of started off in the beginning as centralized, and then over time they're leaning more towards a decentralized future? Because, centralization is like a spectrum. So do you think XRP is trying to move to decentralization as much as possible?
Yeah, I think so, 100%. I follow a lot of the DeFi projects on the XRP ledger and in the Zoom wallet, and the amount of growth that's happened there, especially with the NFT launching and going live last month. So much has happened in this bear market. So when you see other projects that are struggling, there's not much going on, and then you look at XRP and you see how much is being built in the DeFi, in gaming, in all these different use cases. They're doing stuff even with Casino Coin and the regulated gambling industry. That's massive. So all these little use cases inside of crypto that they're tackling are, they're awesome to follow. They're fun to follow, and it's exciting. Instead of sitting here and complaining and watching your bags get wrecked, look at the glass half full and look at what these guys are doing in the bear market. And then you can kind of separate projects from others.
Absolutely. I firmly believe that in 2025, there's going to be interesting attributes to which projects are going to go up and explode. And the main thing that's going to be driving a lot of these projects' growth is going to be through utility and adoption. And so I think XRP has a lot of great stuff going on. So moving into utility, could you kind of give us an explanation of what is the main utility within the XRP and XLM protocol?
Yeah, so I would say that for the XRP ledger, the main utility is instant liquidity, cross-border transactions, and for the banks, for the central banks and the CBDCs that are about to roll out, XRP is going to be that bridge asset that is the liquidity for banks. So right now, when banks are sending money across the world, it can take days to settle. 5% don't even go through. I mean, Ripple and XRP are solving that issue right there. And it's going to free up all that capital that's just stuck in limbo right now. And that's a major utility. And then we all know with CBDCs, how dangerous that could be, but how big this is going to be too. The whole financial system is moving towards, digitalization and digitizing your IDs. So it's all coming. So, I think, and then just, liquidity is all, there are three things that I look at XRP and say it primarily is for the banks right now, but it's so fast and the technology is, obviously good enough to where people want to build on it. They want to launch NFTs on it. They want to launch games on it. They want to do DeFi on the XRP ledger. So, it's kind of right now the Wild West in a sense, but it's also not. So, we need regulations, but they can't overdo it. It would be kind of like not letting the .com boom happen. Silicon Valley not existing, the United States would not look the way it does right now. So I think the regulators know that. And I think we're going to have a meet in the middle. And hopefully, these ripples allowed to operate and thrive here like they are around the world.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that phenomenal explanation. Now, one thing I just want to quickly highlight, you spoke about banks, and when you hear banks in crypto and in the crypto communities, everyone calls it the B word. Honestly, there's always going to be banks. But in your opinion, do you think the XRP and XLM protocol will push banks to be more decentralized?
I think yes, 100%. I think what they're going to do is it's already happening. Is you're seeing banks being forced to either adopt their technology or they're starting to create their own. And, we'll talk about the lawsuit later, but I really think that was all done to stall Ripple. They were so far ahead with what they were doing. And all the Wall Street VC money was behind Ethereum and other projects. So at that point, it was almost, we can't let this happen, it looks like. And you're seeing all the corruption going on right now. So it's a crazy time right now, but it just shows why with FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried, when you have centralized entities that have the ability to create ghost accounts and move money around without their own team not even knowing it, that's scary. So there's a fine line between needing a little bit of centralization and being completely decentralized. And then on the other end, when you're completely centralized, look what happens. So this technology, it forces honesty. If everything's transparent on the blockchain, you can't manipulate stuff. JP Morgan's not going to be able to manipulate gold like they used to. So I think they're going to have to use crypto or I don't know what else to make up for the lost revenues that they were making and basically committing crimes and laundering money.
Absolutely. And I 100% agree with you. With your statement when you talked about how banks and all these finance companies are so corrupt. Kind of just adding on what you said, banks aren't going to magically disappear one day. What's great, one of the biggest benefits of banks is, they're so easy to use, especially for like the older generation. Most people just like to have like a credit card where you just swipe and money gets transferred. So I think that on top of, blockchain technology, securing your financial holdings, it also push banks to, be fair players, because in the future, you're going to have like these crypto banks that hold these coins and you can use them to swap and transact. And it's going to benefit them, to be honest, to get more users and to be a part of the community rather than to be these greedy entities that scam people. And now with the ledger, everything's just out in the open, so you can catch people's BS before they do it. So cool. So moving on, could you tell us what ledger technology is?
So I basically look at it as it's a way of storing data and a way of maintaining and validating consensus on different nodes. And it's basically you have different nodes set up around different companies, different entities, around the world, and it helps to decentralize the network. And each transaction comes to a node, and once it's approved, it gets 80% approval. It meets consensus, and the transaction is then validated and basically leaves a record of that transaction, so you can't go back and manipulate it. Once it's done, it's frozen in time. It can't be changed, and that's like you were saying. It brings transparency. It forces transparency, and these banks, I think there's enough money in just being a Uniswap for the everyday person that comes in and says, "Hey, I want to buy some Decentraland today." And Uniswaps or Bank of America says, "Sure, Johnny, no problem. How much you want to buy? $1,000, no problem." They take their 1.5%. They go and use Uniswap. They make the swap, or they have it already, and everything is fine. They don't need to play these crazy games. So I really hope that's where we end up, and not where all these things are illegal securities. You have to be an accredited investor to own them, and that would just shut out, the everyday person that is working super hard, putting money away, doing the right thing, and just getting eaten alive by inflation. It's just not fair.
Absolutely. And so a little bit of a follow-up question to your statement. So we got ledger technology and then we have blockchain technology. Both of them are very similar, but there are some differences. And in your opinion, do you think ledger technology will replace blockchain technology?
I do. I think for the next 3, 5, maybe 10 years max, they'll work kind of in unison. And then as just all the legislation with ISO, with the ESG narrative, the whole climate agenda across the board, it's going to force these companies into green solutions. And I feel like you're gonna have to move towards the ledger technology. I mean, blockchain is great. Bitcoin was great, with proof of work. You have your block, and then it's completed, and your next block, it's basically, literally blockchain. And it's great technology, but Bitcoin has failed. It's not accomplished what it was set out to do, is be peer-to-peer cash. It's not fast enough. You just can't have 10-minute blocks. It doesn't work with payments. So I kind of see technology forcing blockchain to kind of be a thing of the past.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely kind of just based off what you're saying, Bitcoin, it started off as like, the first premier blockchain. And then over time, you're going to get new layer one projects with something special. And this is something we talk a lot about offline. And, it seems like XRP is just kind of like an updated version, like Bitcoin was like Windows 2 and now XRP is like Windows 3 in a way. And we'll probably see, more of these projects come out with new and innovative technologies down the road. So it's really fascinating to be in this time, and it's a great time to be alive. So kind of building off of that, how is XLM and XRP different from Bitcoin?
So that's a good question. I would say they are way faster, and they can scale to where Bitcoin failed. Where Bitcoin it can't complete it just can't do what these other technologies are capable of. And that's okay. Bitcoin can be a store of value. I think it can be digital gold. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, the way things are going with inflation, people don't want to carry saved, physical gold. Bitcoin is the solution, I think. The younger generation, they're glued to their phones. I don't think you could pay that generation to own physical gold. So Bitcoin being a store of value, I think is completely fine, and not accomplishing what they set out to be and kind of adjusting and finding your use case. That's great. But I think XRP and XLM have kind of filled that void, and just the proof of work and blowing up the environment, it's just not sustainable. And I really think that the carbon credits and you're already starting to really see the Bitcoin isn't green. It's not sustainable. It uses more power than countries, but banks at the same time use just as much, if not more. So it's kind of a hypocrisy. But when you have a solution like Ripple, like Stellar, that have these green, super fast, super cheap blockchains that can scale to the masses that are already working with all of the central banks around the world, it just makes sense to let them take over and become the peer-to-peer cash, that bridge asset for cross-border transfers that Bitcoin couldn't be.
Absolutely. Ripple and Stellar have been constantly developing their networks, and Bitcoin is one of the few blockchains that doesn't have much development going down the road. There's a few, layer 2 solutions like the Lightning Network and side chains, but to compare it to the degree of what Ripple and Stellar are trying to achieve, it's it's like comparing us to like a giant. Like that's the best analogy I can think of. So kind of building off of this comparison, so we got into XLM and XRP, and we talked about the difference between Bitcoin. Now, how is XRP and XLM different?
So I would be, I mean, besides the technology with validators and using consensus, I think the main difference is the use case, honestly. And XLM has that heads up already with DeFi and smart contracts. XRP is now just kind of catching up with what they're doing. So this was a good graphic it's older, but it shows what they're both trying to do. And they're very similar in a sense, but just I think they're going to each tackle their own use cases. XRP is going to be, like I said, the banker's coin, that coin when a bank needs to exchange €1 billion for €1 billion pesos or whatever. That XRP being used to settle that transaction is what it was designed for. And I think XLM being, MoneyGram's owner now, and if people didn't know, Ripple actually bought MoneyGram in 2019, and they kind of used their name and their company to pilot their technology. And all of a sudden, MoneyGram, we saw that happen, and we bought some MoneyGram stock, and it was $3 around then, and it's around it was at $11 last time I looked. So you could just see the power of what Ripple's technology offered. Their year-to-year transactions went up 160% immediately, and all of a sudden they were profitable. And you then saw the SEC come in and sue Ripple, which was really funny because they approved the purchase of MoneyGram 2 years before. And so Ripple ended up selling, I believe, 75%, if not more, to Stellar, so they could kind of take off where Ripple left and really tackle the micro settlements. And, when migrant workers are in another country not paying these astronomical fees to get money back home, and Stellar partnering with Circle and Lobster Wallet and USDC for the fiat on ramp, and MoneyGram for sending money around. They've kind of built that. They took the existing network and name that MoneyGram had, everybody knew, and they just accelerated. They just took it to the next level, basically. So I would say the biggest difference is XRP is for more liquidity and bigger payments for banks, and XLM is going to be for when I'm sending you $100, in cash, you want to go pick it up.
So would it be fair to say that Ripple and Stellar are like brother and sister projects?
I use that analogy a lot. Yes. Yep. And now that Jeb, I believe all of his XRP is gone. So he no longer has any, I believe. So his ties are now cut. So the whole bickering back and forth, I think, is starting to really settle down. And you're starting to see a lot of that analogy is, brother and sister. And it makes sense because their use cases complement each other perfectly.
Absolutely. So building off of that, we get into, smart contracts, and this past bull market run, we saw a huge explosion of DeFi on the Ethereum blockchain and also on the Binance Smart Chain. We saw projects like decentralized exchanges. We saw metaverse projects, and we also saw really cool store value projects like Hex. So based off of that, do you think XRP and XLM will be a better layer one protocol for smart contracts, DeFi, gaming, and metaverse with the upcoming bull market just right around the corner?
So I don't honestly know the answer to that. I think that's the exciting part about crypto is we know what these guys are trying to tackle, and we can see it almost happening in front of our eyes, but we can't see, we don't have a crystal ball and see 5 years down the road, what's that chart going to look like? What's going to be going on? So we do our research on the back end to try to make our best guess for, based on partnerships, based on teams, based on tokenomics, based on community. That's so big in crypto to have almost a cult-like following. You almost need it, with the meme coins have it, XRP Army has it, the Link Marines. I mean, all of these coins almost have a cult-like following. And that is it's gonna even grow in the future stronger and stronger. So I think for like DeFi, I think Stellar is gonna really, though they have the advantage right now, they have the time, that 2-year gap almost, which I think is huge. I mean, to make up that much time would be phenomenal, but we'll see. I know that I don't see very much with gaming in Stellar, where on XRP, I know Equilibrium, their whole ecosystem is launching a bunch of games. And I was talking to some Corium developers out in Las Vegas that were working on P2E games on Corium for next year. So seeing actual development and guys building out on the XRP ledger for gaming, I don't see that really on Lobster. I mean, maybe I'm missing it, or it's in the pipe works, but I think XRP has the advantage in NFTs there, in gaming, whereas like DeFi, I would kind of give that to XLM. And then metaverse, I mean, that's such a generic phrase. I think they both have a decent shot, but it's not their niche of the market. I don't think it's a priority for them. So I think they'll exist there because they have to, but it's not going to be something that these guys tackle.
Absolutely. Looking at how cryptocurrency is now getting diversified in different market sectors, it seems like XRP and XLM are competing with Bitcoin when it comes to peer-to-peer payments And then you have other projects like Ethereum and like Polkadot and Solana having their own use case utility, whether it's decentralizing the web or getting to interoperability. So I feel like each project has their own specialization and you can't cover all fields. But with XLM and XRP, their main focus is on those digital payments. So building off of that and getting more into like the digital payment side of things, if XRP succeeds in replacing the United States dollar as the global reserve currency, and we'll do this in like a theoretical term. I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it will in the future. But if it were to, what do you think would happen to other major layer one blockchains like Ethereum, Cardano, and Polkadot?
So if that happened, I think it would really change Ethereum because of who's funding it, who has motivations to see ETH succeed. We know it's not the best technology, yet they're getting massive contracts. You're seeing a CBDC with Quorum in Australia. Out of all the companies that they could have chose to work with, they chose Quorum's blockchain. So now you have Ethereum kind of being ISO approved in a sense. But I think that if XRP was to have that, all of what ETH is doing right now would kind of be negated and it would kind of take a step back. But I don't think that's going to happen. I know it's not going to happen. So I think we're going to see, Cardano with what they're doing in Africa and Polkadot with interoperability. I mean, and Parachains and Kusama, we're just a little bit early for what they're doing. I think we're about 6 months away from seeing a major shift in the whole market. I think Ethereum's going to eventually flip Bitcoin inevitably, and hopefully the sooner the better. I think it'd be better for the space as a whole. But I don't think these other coins are going to go away. I think, the bigger major ones that have partnerships out there, that have real utility, that have developers building right now, that have a community following it, not bot followers, not, these paid, you can tell what is genuine and what is paid. And, the good thing in the bear market is you really don't have to worry about the paid chili junk. But going back to your point, if that was for XRP to happen, to be the world reserve currency, it would set Ethereum back a lot, I think, and it would really make these other blockchains, it would put XRP on the pedestal base. They'd be number one forever, and I don't think there'd be anyone catching up until obviously we needed a new currency.
So building off of that, earlier you spoke about cult-like followings, and you have, I believe you said it was like the Link Army, and then you have like Hexicans, and we have all these big groups, and all of them believe that their one project that they support is going to be the number one project in the future. In your opinion, do you think there's going to be a multi-cryptocurrency future, or is there just going to be a singularity or a single project that will just dominate all across the board?
I think it's going to be the first. I hope it doesn't end up being the latter, because that means the legislation that comes in the future is going to stifle all innovation. So I want to see a world where everything is decentralized except for, your on-ramps that are needed, and maybe banks offering crypto, to people that just don't want to self-custody. But I really hope that there's a push for really owning your crypto and getting it on a ledger. People that are still using crypto.com, and, I use Gemini and Bitstamp in New York, and they're so scrutinized with the licenses or the regulation up here. It's so hard to get licensed that I feel more confident using those exchanges versus like Kraken and Voyager, which never were licensed in New York. So that extra level is almost a sense of security. But I want to see a world where all of these blockchains have a use case, have a utility, and thrive, and really can tackle everything that were in their white papers. I don't want to see Bitcoin or ETH just dominating everything. All the excitement is in the innovation and in the new projects and building and community. And with all, one big, massive community, that's no fun. Smaller, tight-knit communities are, I think, where it's at.
When it comes to this idea of decentralization, and I'm going to tie into the point you just make. We hear this a lot, like, this project isn't decentralized or this project is centralized, and it gets into, this weird ego trip. But ultimately, if there was one single cryptocurrency, that by definition is centralized. The idea of having a decentralized future is you have multiple options and you don't have one control over the entire industry, kind of like a monopoly. And so I agree, cryptocurrency future. So building off of that, getting into regulations, which you spoke about, and how New York is one of the few states in the United States to be the front runners behind regulation. So a really big hot topic is the ISO 20022. So for those of our viewers that don't know what that is, could you please explain what the ISO 20022 is and how it will impact the cryptocurrency space in the future?
Yeah, so there's a lot of confusion about this online. You'll go and watch some YouTube videos and you think that you could just go to a website and there's this checklist of coins that sent in their approval letter and someone stamped it off and now they're good to go, which is the farthest from what's actually going on. ISO is basically a standard for financial institutions that is going to, for their electronic messages and their financial messaging. They're going to have to, it's going to set the tone and the standards for all communication for basically financial institutions around the world. So a crypto that complies with the ISO 22 standard that a bank accepts as payment, I think that's going to be the game changers and will revolutionize banking. I think, once crypto is not being bought by shell companies or these banks, and you're being told by Jamie Dimon that Bitcoin's a scam every other month, and then it's going to 100K. And I mean, all of this is to FUD us out. And I believe and allow banks to catch up with buying and owning these assets, as well as owning and the politicians that make the legislation. And so back to ISO, got a little tangent there. I basically look at, like I said, it's a set of standards that if you want to communicate with banks in the future with these cryptos, you're going to have to do it under these guidelines. And it's basically going to come into effect next year in Europe and the end of 2023, I believe, for the United States. But now I'm hearing it's being delayed till 2025, which that's going to be a good thing. I believe that just shows me that they're not going to rush out regulation and they're really hopefully going to take their time and do it right. And with all the stuff that's happened this past week, I mean, I think we'd be having a different conversation a week ago, honestly. I mean, this was the biggest, this was twice the size of Bernie Madoff's Ponzi scheme. This was massive, and it's going to send shockwaves that we haven't even seen yet.
Absolutely. getting the ISO 222 based off of that awesome description you gave. It's kind of like if you're a doctor, an engineer, or a professional, you have like a certification or a license, and you have certain requirements in order to practice in a state or a local area. And so it just creates a standard, and ultimately the end goal is to keep projects honest and up to date, and also prevent any bad players from impacting the space. Now, I know it's run through that World Economic Forum, and I know someone down in the comments is going to say, all the corrupt people at the top are trying to use this to centralize crypto. Well, to a certain degree, that might be true, but also you should also recognize that it's a great first step into a decentralized future, and it allows more of the community to have this conversation of what is an acceptable project and what's not acceptable. And I think overall it might be significantly impact going down the road, but ultimately it's going to carve out a really great future for a lot of these coins. So
yeah. And like if someone right now orders a bicycle or something and it gets shipped from China, they have to follow basically an ISO standard for shipping that bike across the world. And it's the same things for when you want to send a message from, one of these banks to another bank using their system. And I think, whoever can come out with a plug and play and something that these businesses and banks aren't going to have to change up everything, something that can come in and coexist with what they have right now and not uproot everything, have to retrain people. I mean, if they're doing that now and everyone's under NDAs, then that would be shocking to me, but I don't see that happening. I don't think you could just train all these people to do this. It would just be too much. So to work in parallel with Swift over time, and, eventually who knows what ends up happening. I mean, with the dollar even being the world reserve currency, with what's going on with the BRICS nations, and, we're in crazy times right now.
Definitely a great time to be alive. I know I said that earlier. So really crazy times. I agree. So following up with, the ISO 222 compliance set of standards, probably this is going to be a very big question. Which coins are listed under the ISO 222?
So I would say XLM, XRP, Algorand, HBAR, Quant, Casper, Zinfin, and ETH 2.0 is now, because of Quorum in Australia, with them signing that contract. Quorum is owned by JP Morgan, I believe, or Consensus, one or the other. And all of that is controlled by Ethereum and VC money that's backing ETH. So that was shocked. What's the last couple months? I don't know if I mentioned Cardano too. They're on there. And then I think that was everything that I could think of right now that I've seen, at least, or rumored to be ISO approved.
Yeah, like you were saying earlier, it's just a list of compliance. So technically any project can be ISO 222 compliant, but it's really interesting of that whole list. And, I think we'll have more videos on each and every single one of these projects, but all of them are extremely, they have a really great, they have a really great development team behind each project. They have a real world use case utility, and they're cutting deals with so many people. So they're like these behemoths in cryptocurrency that not a lot of people are talking about. So I think it's really interesting. So like of that list of coins, which ones would you say are your favorite?
So I would go, Quant for some reason has been sticking. Quant and Algorand and HBAR are the three that have been really piquing my interest lately. I mean, honestly, I I look at them all the same. I just look at quant differently just because the supply is so small. And when you see exchanges being at all-time lows, running out, I mean, there's about two-thirds the amount of Bitcoin, give or take. So that's not much. I mean, 14.5 million or 14.2 million, that's not a lot of coins. So once this technology, their Hyperledger is unleashed, and all the partners that they have signed need to actually purchase quant. That's what the rumor I heard is the if you want to use quant's over ledger, you have to buy $50,000 in quant tokens. I don't know if that's true or not. That's what I heard, but they have something like 1,100 partners. So just doing the math, that's going to create a supply shock. So that's kind of why they separate for me. But then, just HBAR, XLM, XRP, and Algorand, they're the next. If I was to say Algorand's the best, I'll find a reason why XLM will be number one. And then I'd find a reason why HBAR would be number one. Then find a reason why XRP would be number two. And so I look at them almost all the same. I think Casper and XDC are more long-term plays. I don't think you're going to see as much from them as quick, but who knows? That could just be more opportunity. And I know with Casper, you can stake it through your ledger and get 10% right off their website at casper.live. And that's no risk. You're not giving your keys away, and that's passive income. And that's one thing that I really stress. And just that passive income on Hedera too, with the 9% you're getting on Stater right now, that's a lot. And it's only going to be about 5% when it goes to native staking. So to be able to capitalize on these extra rewards right now, I think it'll be massive in the future in 5-10 years.
Yeah, definitely. I really, really love how you brought up staking because, once we start to find this bottom of the bear market, staking can be a great thing for you to take your coins that you already like and all those projects that you've done a lot of research on, earn some passive income, and just wait for the next bull market to come up, and then you can just unstake them. So it's like the ultimate passive income. There's no middleman. You control the coins you have. Make sure you put all your coins on wallets that you own the keys to, and get them off exchanges. But also another thing to add to that, what's really great about cryptocurrency is the ISO20022 coins are so fun to look at and read about. And it's very difficult just to pick one or two. And the best part about it is you just buy them all. So, and
now is the time too, is the prices are where they were almost in 2020. So that opportunity is back. And it's just a waiting game. So if you can teach yourself to delay gratification, that's why I think staking is so important too, because it teaches people to forget about the daily chaos and just lock up for 30 days, lock up for 60 days, and just forget about it. So you can learn to see the dips happen and not be able to do anything about it.
Oh, absolutely. And then, also on top of that, with your money sitting in your bank account, inflation's estimated to be about 5 to 8% a year. So you're better off, looking into some of these like cryptocurrency projects, or getting the stable coins and get into, yield farming, get into staking, get into all these cool protocols that will earn you some income so you can fight against the inflation that we're seeing that's really bad in this country. So kind of just building off of this conversation we had about ISO 20022. So how does the ISO 20022 give XRP and XLM an advantage in the upcoming 2025 crypto bull market?
Well, I think this last bull market was pure speculation. Not pure, but 98% speculation that drove it. I mean, Elon had laser eyes and coins pumped. I mean, it was ridiculous. So this next bull market, I think, is going to be utility driven, and that's going to put an end to all the the crap that was pumping that had, one developer that stopped working on it 6 months ago and people are still trading it. And it's giving, I think it's going to provide a bigger upside. Once we start to see the ESG narratives, the ISO standards come in, and the ID 2030 and central bank digital currencies, we're all headed towards this green agenda. Whether you like it or not, it's where we're going. And I think that being ISO approved is going to already save you the headache of having to deal with carbon credits, with having to deal with, God knows, the EPA, if they're coming after, companies that are running proof of work. Like, who knows where they're going to go? I know that there's a project Dovu on HBAR that I use, and you can plug your MetaMask address in there, and it tells you how much CO2 that you've created using Ethereum and all the transactions you've done in your MetaMask wallet. And I'm too scared to actually plug my wallet in there because I don't want to really even connect to it, because I've done thousands of transactions and God knows how much that's going to be. But if they have that ability, I mean, what happens in a year if they say, okay, what's your MetaMask address? They plug it through there. Oh, yeah, you owe $3,000 in carbon credits for all the pollution you did, when you could have just traded all those NFTs on HBAR, or you could have bought those coins on Stellar instead of buying them on Ethereum because you were lazy. That's going to be where I think they have an advantage. And, the lawsuit too is going to really give them a head start in this bear market leading into the next bull run.
Well, speaking of lawsuit, that actually transitions into my next question. So, could you please explain the ongoing SEC lawsuit with Ripple? I know we've been kind of going around the edges of it throughout this entire interview, but I think it'd be really great for anyone who's new to the XRP and XLM ecosystem.
Yeah, definitely. So there's this is another thing with the ISO standards that is confused by so many people, that you hear the XRP versus SEC lawsuit, and you just hear Ripple and XRP thrown around so much, and so often it's false or not even true. So Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson are being sued for selling an illegal security in XRP. So all these people out here that are just thinking that XRP is going to $589 because the derivatives market is $8 quadrillion. So divide that by the supply, XRP has to be $600. There's people that are that delusional out there with the price, but also with what's going on in this lawsuit. So understanding what's actually going on, that Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson are being sued for selling illegal securities. And I believe Ripple Labs is part of the lawsuit too. But it's not what a lot of people think it is. So this is, the thing that really gets me is that Ripple has been working with the SEC since 2012, almost 10 years now. They've been begging for regulation. Can please, we're here with you. We want to make this right. We want to do this right. And then approving their purchase of MoneyGram, the SEC, and then turning around and suing them, and then Hinman leaving the next day. Or was it Jay Clayton that sued him and left the next day? Clayton was who sued him and left the next day, which is it's crazy to see the criminality that is the SEC. And I'm so glad that BitBoy is really exposing, and John Deaton and all these people that are bringing to light the corruption, because if this is gonna influence a lot of people indirectly that don't even understand it. So, that's what it is right now. And the whole reason this case, I think, was happening or did happen was because Ripple was so far ahead with their technology, signing up all these banks around the world, JP Morgan and these guys, and Chase, and all the Grayscale, all these guys, all of a sudden were playing catch up, and they needed time to build something that could compete with Ripple. And when you look at it from a bank's point of view, they don't care really who they're buying. Whoever has the cheapest software or the best software for the best price, whether it's from Ripple, whether it's from JP Morgan, whether it's from whoever's building it, I don't think the companies are going to matter. So whereas Ripple, when they were signing companies up in the past, these companies were forced to use their software and to use XRapid, I believe is the name of it, their on-demand liquidity service. And now because of the competition out there in this lawsuit, companies that are now signing up with them aren't forced to use that software. So, they're slowly starting to lose control of that market, and you're seeing it. And it really is a shame. And I hope it ends quick and a lot of people go to jail.
Oh, I agree. Gary Gensler deserves to go to jail. If you read the back history with him and his ties with Sam Bankman-Fried, it's insane. It's basically a big club and we ain't in it. But also, I think what the worst part about this lawsuit is it's going to discourage cryptocurrency development and innovation in the United States, and it's going to push other companies to go to the Bahamas and South America, pretty much anywhere but the United States and maybe even Europe. So I feel like this is just holding back the industry, not only across the entire world, but especially in the United States. So
100%. And even Ripple, they're building a headquarters in Dubai right now. So if things don't happen here the way they want it, they said, we'll just pack up and leave. We're a currency in 90% of the world. So we don't need you. We'll just pack up and leave. And I think that threat is real. And that would be horrible. That would be like an Amazon being out of Germany or something like that, like IKEA,
Absolutely. So, building off of that, Greg, that was a phenomenal explanation about the SEC lawsuit. So, in your opinion, how will the results of this lawsuit impact XRP?
So, long term, I don't think it's going to have much of an impact on the price. The price is going to be reflective of how much XRP is actually utilized, how many partners can Ripple sign, how much is built on the XRP ledger. Are games successful on the XRP ledger? Can Casino Coin, do anything with the online gambling industry? There's so many things they're trying to tackle. That's not even tokenizing real estate and tokenizing real world assets with Elysian and their physicals, and tokenizing statues like the Greek statues around the world. And these famous monuments can now be tokenized and sold as little pieces. I mean, that's going to bring in ungodly amounts of money. Someone said tomorrow, oh yeah, the Golden Gate Bridge is going up for sale and we're going to sell, 1 million inches. But I think people would love to say, I own a piece of the Golden Gate Bridge, and that's where we're headed. So, ultimately, I don't think the lawsuit is going to really impact them in the long term. But if they lose, just what you said, they'll pack up and leave, and they'll go to Dubai or they'll go to London, and they'll just continue on as if it's business as usual. And the United States is going to lose out on all that development, all of that technology, the web.com boom that we had. If that doesn't happen with crypto here and it goes to China or anywhere elsewhere, our economy won't recover. I think this is our only chance we have at having a decent economy in the next 10 years.
Agreed. And also on top of that, the US petrodollar is declining in value, and we're in this weird time where we're transitioning to, new governmental systems. We're also transitioning to a new financial system, and we're going through another technology revolution. I believe this is the fourth technology or the fifth, but regardless, that's the fourth, right? So
Yeah.
regardless, we're gonna have new things come into play, and and having a coin like Ripple and what they're trying to do with banks is going to be extremely huge, and it could also help position the United States to still be on top, especially with the petrodollar being slowly replaced over time. Um, so kind of just wrapping up this phenomenal conversation. One last big question. So, do you think the SEC versus Ripple lawsuit will impact the entire cryptocurrency space? If so, how?
100%. And it can either be, it can impact positively or negatively depending on what precedent is set. I think if Ripple was to lose and they were selling illegal securities, sure. I mean, 98% of the top 300 coins are illegal securities. And then what do you do from there? I mean, are they now illegal for me to own as a non-accredited investor? Or do I have to transfer them to a bank that can legally custody them because they're so dangerous to hold? That if that goes that route, it could get ugly. But if XRP Ripple, they win, and there's a new Howey test that is the Ripple test, and there's an actual new standard for, okay, if you did this, 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 and this, you could have been a security, but now you've morphed and you are something you're not. And I hope that's what happens. So, I mean, look at what happened with Library. The SEC is gloating that they won this case with Library. I mean, I didn't even know what Library was until the law case. Like, they're picking Ethereum Max and suing Kim Kardashian. They're picking these lawsuits that are irrelevant to the space. They're just clickbait titles. And meanwhile, the biggest fraud in history is going on. You blatantly knew about it. Your daughter, or no, who was it? Elizabeth Warren's daughter, you gave an internship with at MIT. The corruption is so bad that it needs to get brought to the front. And if there's a negative ruling, every crypto is an illegal security. It's going to devastate this market to where I don't think it comes back for 5 years. I mean, if that happens, Bitcoin, welcome to a $3,000 Bitcoin and $100 Ethereum again. And that would be, I think, where people really get scared and run for the hills. And I just pray that doesn't happen. I hope that 12 amicus briefs have been filed now against the SEC. I mean, what else can happen? How many more people have to get hurt by FTXs, the next one out there? I mean, crypto.com, they're advertising everywhere, every UFC fight, everywhere I look, crypto.com, but they have $350 million in volume. And it's like, okay, something is not adding up here. You just accidentally sent 400,000 Ethereum to the wrong address. So crypto.com is probably involved. They're probably going to go. So, man, this is a crazy time to be in crypto, but also this is why we're here to identify. I never owned FTX. I never shilled FTX to anyone, never got anyone to Celsius. Had a couple people use Voyager just because of the coin selection, but never had them keep money on there. So we've been able to keep people from falling victim to these scams that instead of the SEC worrying about Library and Kim Kardashian, go after the real scams, set laws that people have been asking for, and let this thrive like it should.
Agreed. And it's funny when you bring up scams and how the SEC is not using their resources correctly. But the funny part about that is, Gary Gensler and Sam Bankman-Friedman have a connection at MIT where Gary Gensler was a professor and Sam Bankman-Fried was his student. And it seems like they're all working closely with a lot of these scammers, and they're going after the legit people. So it seems like this whole thing's backwards. What are your thoughts on that?
100%, bro. I mean, the stuff that I've seen in the last couple of days, just from the amount of residents in the Bahamas going from 400,000 to 4 million overnight. I mean, that's just hilarious to me because there's some loophole in the law where if you're a resident of the country that the exchange was based out of, you had first rights to that money. So everyone on the Bahamas was able to withdraw money, I guess. So I don't know what people were doing. Oh, I know what it was. They were allowing you to mint NFTs on the network, and then you could go and buy them. So people
Wow.
were just creating these NFTs, and their friends were going up and scooping them up and withdrawing the money. And it's just, you see stuff like that, and the SEC does nothing. And then you see what Ripple's doing to actually bring, less friction to the world to tackle use cases that suck. MoneyGram was horrible forever. I mean, horrible. I remember playing online poker and going and putting $1,000 on there and waiting 2 hours praying it got to the Philippines and praying it was going to come to my account. And that all that stuff is going to be gone now with Stellar, with MoneyGram, with Circle, them all teaming up and combining powers. Look, you get a superpower versus trying to centralize everything and make one company do everything. Doesn't work.
Right. Yeah, it's monopolization in this space is probably the scariest part of cryptocurrency because it was designed to fight against big banks. It was designed to fight against these centralized control corporations and ultimately lay the foundation to a decentralized and prosperous future for our entire species. And it's insane how you get a few bad actors and they're made of like the 10th of the 1% that do sketchy crap like this. I mean, it makes me angry, but
Yeah.
regardless, everything will work itself out in the future. So, yeah, man,
Yeah.
that's it for the AMA. I want to say thank you for coming on, and I want to give you a second. Any last thoughts or anything else you want to say about XRP, XLM, or maybe the lawsuit that's going on?
Yeah, I mean, obviously none of this is financial advice. This stuff is super volatile. I own all the coins that I mentioned. I own every one of the coins on that list. So I only talk about stuff that I am invested in, that I've done the research in. So I'll gladly in 2, 3 years say, yeah, I was wrong about that coin. I believed in it. It checked all the boxes, but didn't pan out. I'll gladly take that L because I know there'll be plenty of wins that come with it in this next bull run. The same research I was doing in 2019 and 20 when I was pretty much a noob still, that same research has been tuned and refined. And now the stuff that we're finding, DeFi on Hedera, DeFi on the XRP ledger, and crypto was invented to get rid of the middlemen. So let's hope that decentralization is really, it's fought for, and these JP Morgan, Chases, Sequoias, Grayscales don't end up taking over.
Absolutely. And to kind of add on to what you said, when you go on CoinGecko, you go on CoinMarketCap, there's still going to be these huge projects you see, big flashy ones, and there's a good chance in the future that some of these projects are going to fail. It happens all the time. A great example of, in the real world, like Blockbuster. Blockbuster back in the day was the go-to place to get movies. You rent them out, you bring them back. There's popcorn, there's cotton candy. Now we get into like, the late 2000s and every Blockbuster is closing up shop and it's being sold over to, I forgot the company that bought it. But regardless, there's always going to be projects that will collapse and there's always going to be new projects that will pop up. And ultimately, what we know now is going to be astronomically different next week. And that's how fast cryptocurrency moves. So, please do your own research. And none of this information is financial advice. All we did was break down each and every single one of these projects, use it for educational value, and hopefully use it as a tool to better position yourself in the upcoming bull market. So, like I said, Adam, man, it's been a pleasure. Love the conversation, and excited to move on to the next few projects we're going to cover in this ISO 20022 series.
Yeah, man, looking forward to it, and appreciate the invite on the show. and we'll be back hopefully next week with the next episode.
Absolutely. And, definitely check out Adam down below. We got the socials all down below. He has a lot of great stuff going on, and, follow him, because you never know. There's going to be a juicy project comes out and he might tweet or send it out on social media. And also follow our channel, because we're always covering the hottest and some of the newest projects that are going to be launching in the space. So that's it, guys, and see you in the next one.